Imagine being judged by a rulebook you've never been allowed to read. That's the quiet contradiction at the heart of modern legal systems. We expect people to obey the law, yet we don't consistently teach the law in a way ordinary citizens can actually understand. And when people don't understand the rules, we don't get justice. We get confusion, resentment, and a system that feels like a trap instead of a safeguard. Think about any other part of life. You don't throw someone into a job on day one, refuse to train them, and then punish them for mistakes they didn't even know they could make. That would be incompetent management. But when it comes to law, that's often exactly what we do. We assume everyone knows what they're allowed to do, what they're required to do, and what will land them in trouble, despite the fact that most people have never had real, practical legal education. Authoritative research on public perception of law makes something crystal clear. The law doesn't function on paper alone. It functions through public belief. When people perceive laws as fair and understandable, compliance rises. When they perceive laws as biased, unclear, or selectively enforced, compliance drops, and social friction rises. People don't form those perceptions in a vacuum. They rely on personal experience, stories from their communities, and media narratives. When the system communicates poorly, it leaves a vacuum, and that vacuum gets filled with distrust. Now let's talk about why just follow the law is not as simple as it sounds. In the UK alone, legislation isn't a neat, fixed list. It's a moving target. Laws are constantly being created, amended, and repealed by multiple bodies. Typically, around 25 to 50 new public general acts are passed each year. On top of that, there are roughly 3,500 statutory instruments, secondary laws and regulations, made annually. From 2006 to 2018, the average was about 33 acts of parliament per year. And remember, the UK doesn't even have one single legal system. It has three: England and Wales, Scotland, and Northern Ireland, each producing its own legislation, alongside what comes from Westminster. So let's be honest. If thousands of legal changes can happen in a year, and no one person, no professional, no lawyer, no judge, can confidently recite every rule in full detail, how realistic is it to expect the average citizen to just know what they must obey? And this isn't a philosophical complaint. This is a practical problem with real consequences. When laws are hard to understand, people don't only break them intentionally, they break them accidentally. Research highlights a major barrier to lawful behavior: lack of public education about rights and responsibilities. People often don't know the standards governing their everyday decisions: work, housing, family issues, online behavior, even simple disputes. And that ignorance doesn't come from laziness. It comes from a system that speaks in complexity, then pretends complexity is clarity. Here's what happens next. People stop internalizing the law as our shared rules and start treating it like a threat. Social science explains compliance through forces like internalization and identification, meaning people follow rules when those rules match community values and when people feel the system represents them. But when laws feel disconnected from everyday morality or applied unequally, compliance becomes mere acquiescence. I'll follow it if I think I'll get caught. That's not a healthy legal culture. That's fear-based control. And then there's the issue we can't ignore: trust. Trust in legal institutions is not automatic. It's earned, and it can be damaged. When communities see historical inequities, like racial disparities in sentencing, it doesn't just create anger about one case. It creates a long-term belief that the system is biased. Once people believe the rules are not applied fairly, the law stops being a guide and starts being a weapon, something used on people, not for people. Media plays a role here too. Courtroom dramas, sensational headlines, viral clips, these shape public perception, often more than official statements ever will. Negative portrayals can intensify distrust. Positive transparency can rebuild legitimacy. But either way, the message is unavoidable. Perception becomes reality. If people believe the system is unclear, unfair, or rigged, the system loses the very cooperation it depends on. So what's the solution? It starts with a simple standard that every competent institution should meet. If you want people to follow rules, you must make the rules accessible, understandable, and teachable. That means plain language legal explanations. It means real legal education in schools, not just don't do crime, but how rights work, how obligations work, what processes look like, and where to find trustworthy information. It means transparency when laws change, and clear guidance on what those changes mean for normal people. It means acknowledging and addressing inequities that poison trust. Because here's the truth. Responsibility doesn't only belong to the individual. Responsibility also belongs to the system that sets the standard, communicates it, and enforces it. A society cannot demand perfect compliance from an uninformed public and then act shocked when people feel alienated, angry, or powerless. If we want a legal system that actually works, we have to stop treating the law like a secret language and start treating it like public knowledge. So ask yourself, and ask your representatives, can you explain the law to the people in a way they can understand? And if not, why are we pretending it's a justice to punish them for failing a test they were never taught to pass?